Welcome everyone. It's the first day of school. Look at my little child. Oh, my baby. If you or someone you know is in need of extra cash or a flexible gig, this video is especially for you. We are going to talk about your best opportunity to make an extra $20K a year while still maintaining a work-life balance, what it's like to make decent money 180 days a year doing moderately easy work with minimal investment in your backyard, plus the easier grades and how to manage any classroom so the kids love you and request you directly. Have you ever wondered what the workday of a substitute teacher is actually like? Don't worry, I'm going to keep it real. I'll tell you why I don't miss teaching, but also why I thoroughly enjoyed it and how to manage a classroom as a substitute or guest teacher. And I might even have some pictures you would like to see. Do you remember back in the day, there was always this trope in movies or TV shows that whenever there's a substitute teacher, you have to put like a whoopee cushion, or in some of the darker 80s movies, like a thumbtack in the teacher or the substitute teacher's chair. And you have to like drop your books. Everyone, it's 1 o'clock. We all drop our books after lunch to give them a good scare. I don't really get the dropping books thing. It must have been really tough though back in the day to be a sub. I want you to know there is some truth to students kind of being on edge before a sub walks into the room. But if you kind of have the right attitude going in about what it is you're really here to do and why, I promise I can help make it better and easier for everybody. So let's start with part 1. Look, this is an opportunity to make decent money. You can kind of think about it like your work season is 180 days a year. Now there are some benefits to becoming a sub. I think one of the top reasons is obviously it's going to be a great experience for anybody who's considering pursuing a career in teaching. I mean, there are schools usually all over, and they're also usually near transportation or like inside neighborhoods. Sometimes they're even going to be near your child's school or near maybe another part-time job or other commitments you might have. Being a sub allows you to kind of intentionally create and maintain a work-life balance because you get to make your schedule. It's one of the most interesting types of contract positions out there. I think it can also be a great resource for like vetting you for other childcare gigs. If somebody knows you're a sub, they're more likely to hire you on as a nanny or a tutor because you had to get fingerprinted. If you work as a sub, you'll only be off 16 weeks a year, and they just happen to be consecutive weeks off. So as long as you're good having the summer off every year, this could be something you do for a long time. Elementary school start times are typically pretty early in the morning, like 7:40 a.m. to like 2 o'clock. Middle school, usually around 9 a.m. to like actually 4 or 5. Middle school can be a little bit later. And high school, they can range anywhere between 8 and 9 and getting out of school around like 2, 3 o'clock. That means you can get out of work as early as 2 o'clock. You can choose when and where you work. You can set your schedule as far in advance as assignments are available. Some of these teachers might be out randomly here and there and suddenly a job comes up, but teachers schedule out their vacations and appointments just like anybody else does. So you might be able to set yourself up for the next couple of months because other teachers have as well. You can be a sub and drive for Uber. You can be a sub and a nanny. You can be a sub and a tutor. You can be a sub and a retail employee. You can be a sub and an entrepreneur, even if you're working full-time or building a business. Because substitute teaching offers full days and half days, which gives you kind of a choice of early morning or afternoon, because you're either going to go in through the first half of the day or the last half of the day, that makes it even more flexible. In easier like high school settings, you can get a tremendous amount of work and planning done at your desk. Everything that I'm telling you today is going to be the honest to goodness truth about how to make the most of this and still be a responsible adult. Keep in mind, I went in doing all of these things right away and never had any problems, and I was a preferred sub. I had people calling me. I was often offered long-term opportunities. So just keep these things in mind as I go a little bit deeper into the video. I want you to think about it like this. If there are 168 hours in a week, an average person should spend maybe 56 hours of those sleeping. They might be able to do 20 hours on a part-time job or small business. They could even still have 20 hours of personal time plus 31 hours a week, like 4 hours every day to do all kinds of other things, and still have 40 hours to be a sub. This is one of those things where if you do it right, it can actually provide you with an opportunity to get paid to pretty much do almost nothing. There are many classrooms that run themselves, and if you can get in good with those students and teachers, you're pretty much there just to be the adult that facilitates because it's required by law. Now, some of the highest paying cities are going to be the bigger cities: LA, New York, Phoenix, Chicago, Detroit. You're going to get anywhere between 20 and 25 an hour. Even in states like Florida, you can make an average of $15 an hour here, especially if you're going to do full time. That means that you can make $115 a day. It's going to be higher earning subs that are getting closer to 40 or 50K. And that's if you go somewhere every single day, you're taking advantage of every perk and you're getting paid kind of a higher amount. But let's say you just want to work 20 hours a week. Again, if you're getting around $15 an hour, that could be 15 grand a year. Or if you're making a little bit more, that could be up to like 25 grand a year. If you just think about if you just worked 180 days, every day that was available at your convenience, wherever you wanted to be located in your city or your area, with or without your kids, if you have kids or whatever you want to do, this is still 20 grand that's available to you. And at half days, that means you can make 10 grand. That would mean bringing in an extra 10 grand a year here and there, doing a few hours of work. And if you can get to know some of these teachers and students, again, it's just like babysitting a big group. Let's talk a little bit about the what and the where. Remember, we're talking about moderately easy work with minimal investment in your backyard. This is where I do want to share a little bit about why I don't miss teaching, but I still do think I thoroughly enjoyed it. And you'll see that there are a lot of perks in terms of being around kids that got really good energy. They're just there to learn and grow and just being kids, and it's really cool to just have that kind of connection. But at the same time, there's always going to be a generational difference, whether you're 5, 10, 15, 20 years older than the kids or beyond. The further that distance, the more you might feel disconnected depending on your approach to like kid-adult relationships. I'm pretty chill. I take a more of like an aunt approach, like a nice aunt than like a mean aunt. You know what I mean? So the kids kind of know, like, do what she says and everything's cool. Don't do what she says and it's going to kind of suck, but we don't have to be afraid, Like that to me is the best approach. If you try to go in as a sub being a bit of a jerk, again, maybe even just out of fear, they're going to smell that fear and they're going to try to destroy you. So it's really up to you what you want to experience. I think that there's a lot of pros, like being in the classroom is just a fun environment. It even reminds me a little bit of college and just the sense of being in a place where there is a lot of wonder and wow and oh, I never knew that. I like that kind of stuff. Obviously, we've talked about how flexible it is, especially with those half days. I think it's pretty easy. You can choose that contract work when you want to do it. There are multi-day gigs available though, so it's not always just here and there. I've had opportunities that lasted 6 weeks, like if someone goes on maternity leave, and those long-term opportunities have higher pay. The cool thing too is you control everything. In that instance, the teacher, when I was a teacher for the longer period, kind of handed everything over to me, grade books and all. But then I also got to walk away and never return and not have the stress of breaking that classroom down. She still had to come back and do that. Like she still had to come back and do the teacher stuff, but I got to pretty much control everything. I changed the seating arrangements. I did everything. Again, that's for something like long term. So there are some opportunities to really feel like a teacher. I think that you kind of get almost like an instant supervisor position. You're pretty much 99% the authority unless the principal walks in, which I don't think ever happened the entire time I was subbing. One of the best things about it is at the end of the day, if you've signed up to do something for a week or a month, and I, again, would really recommend do this early, not like halfway through where they're kind of used to you being there, but do it early and just say, look, this isn't going to be good. Usually those places already know. Usually those places know the opportunity is awful and they're not surprised. Another thing I think is really, really special about being a sub is the fact that you have summers off. So if you do have kids, this is something that you can do to bring in extra income, and then you know that you can control if you want to get a summer job. I think that there's something to be said about the community service and the networking opportunities of being a substitute teacher. Again, if you're going into education, that's one thing, but there may even be like nonprofit opportunities. There's all kinds of things that are happening at schools all the time. Even there's, chances where you might meet parents where you just never know what kind of things are going to happen. And I think that this is something where if you're shy, if you're not really great at asserting yourself in certain positions, being a teacher puts you in positions that you really don't have any control over. Like you just just kind of have to go do the thing if it's that kind of day at school. Oh, today we have a career fair. Now you're at the career fair and you kind of just have to do things. And I think it presents really cool opportunities for those of you who may not know what you want to do. Guess what? If you're teaching maybe the high school age kids, they're going to be talking about a lot of that stuff, about like finding yourself and, your identity. And so I just think it could be really cool for some people to go back to school in a way, but also start to remember like, oh yeah, when I was in school, there were all kinds of volunteer opportunities that I knew about. And now maybe I don't really know how to get into that stuff. You could start going alongside working with the kids, especially if they like you. There are plenty of substitute teachers that I remember from high school that they were not real teachers. I shouldn't say real, but they weren't. They were not real teachers. They were subs. They were maybe becoming teachers, but they would be the football coaches and the student body government parent, overseer. They would do stuff like that. And it was like just a really cool opportunity to get involved even before becoming an actual part of that sect of academia. If you're interested in maybe even helping your relationship with your kids, connecting with kids your child's age, or if you do some work with the youth, substitute teaching is just a really great way to gain some understanding of kids in this day and age. Now, I'm going to be real. You ready for it? Being in the classroom can be scary. One of the main reasons that I am not interested in doing it anymore in America is just because of the current issues with, bam, bam, ouchie, ouchies happening with oopsie daisies and not so great situations happening on campuses. I know that in some counties, there can also be an issue with predictability, not having consistent work because maybe there are not as many schools in your area. So this might not be the right thing for everybody. If you deal with a lot of anxiety and you need consistent work, these are already factors that are going to say, hey, this isn't for you. You're also going to have that occasional bad day. You're going to have a bad class. You're going to have a bad administrator. There's going to be some schools where in order to get back to the classroom, you're going to have to deal with that one lady who just hates her job or maybe hates you or something's wrong with her. But then maybe the classes and the students and the teachers and everybody else you deal with are really great. And again, sometimes it's just all around the school is awful. And most of the time they know they have a really hard time getting subs. So you don't really have to feel bad if you're like, can't do it, not for me. Still, one of the things you're going to have to really think about is when you have those bad days, how easy it is to think, I don't want to go back. It's really easy not to work when you choose your schedule. So discipline is required here. And if you have a little bit of a struggle getting up on time, waking up early, or even getting to bed so that you can get up on time the next day, you can't call in to too many schools. Some of the schools will call, they will snitch. That's right. They will call the people who run the substitute teaching program and be like, hey, this person didn't show up for a half day. And we had to send our assistant principal to watch these kids for 3.5 hours because they said they were coming. So you do have to really take this kind of seriously. Another con here that could have been a pro is you get summers off. And some people are like, why would I think it's a good thing to have 16 weeks that I'm not going to work every year and I just know it's coming? And also with it being a side gig, it's very rare that substitutes get offered benefits. That's just in the counties that I've worked for, but I don't think that's going to be any different elsewhere. You'll have to check in on that. There can be some classroom management challenges for some people. If you have a certain type of personality or a certain type of approach with kids that doesn't really mesh well with the groups you're choosing, you may run into every single day as a bad day. And some people are going to be like, these bad days and even some of the good days just aren't worth the pay. Maybe getting to the location is a little bit further than my backyard. So, hey, I don't know if I really want to do this. There's limited job security just because if there aren't a lot of jobs in your area, or maybe the schools in your area, you just don't really vibe with them. Maybe there's a lot of substitutes that have already kind of gotten those, like those ones that I remember from high school that were always at my high school teaching different classes all the time. Those were preferred subs. People wouldn't go put the days up on the substitute teaching portal so that people could choose it. They'll just call the sub first and they'll say, hey, I'm going to put you in. They'll actually know your substitute teacher number and they can sign you up for a gig. And then it's like, now you're always working. Well, if you're not that person and you're having trouble getting in at the schools near you, that could be something where you may not be able to find work. All of this stuff can make it a little bit troublesome, but with the teacher shortage getting worse and worse, I just kind of doubt that you're going to have any of these problems, okay? It's actually not that difficult to become a sub, but there is a small investment if you haven't done this already. In some cases, some of you have done the work where your fingerprints are somehow already available within your county. All you're going to need to do is just just find out who runs your county's substitute program. In Florida, at least in Central Florida, we have Kelly Services. So you'll just need to kind of probably Google search your county name, substitute teaching application. They're going to send you in for fingerprinting and a background check. After that, in Florida and Nevada, they gave paid orientation and training. Some are longer than others, and they do train you on safety issues and things like that. You are fully capable of keeping the students protected and engaged in the school day. You will need to be able to identify the schools in your convenience zone. Where do you maybe pick up your kids or already have a job that you do? You're going to want to go and look at the map for all the schools in your county and select the schools that are best for you. And then you're going to want to go to those schools one by one and teach at those schools, maybe even doing half days if it's a new place that you're not sure about, especially if it's in a certain area where you know it might be a little rough. Yeah, you think you might be able to go in and be what's that word? Dangerous minds or freedom riders. You think you might be able to go in. You think that even if you look like them, talk like them, act like them, that you can go in, but there are just certain places that it's not going to work. And I'm not talking about just one thing. There are all kinds of groups of children that in the wrong environment with the wrong administration, they will run you out of town. All right. So just be prepared to check every place out. You're going to log in to whatever site that they have set up to pick your different assignments, and you start booking gigs and you start booking yourself out as far as you want to. That's it. It's almost like a normal job. The only difference is you drive yourself to different locations every day. And if you've done contract work before, you already know how this works. I think that you can really make decent money 180 days a year doing this pretty easy work. There is minimal investment, and for most of you, you can think of 5 or 6 schools that are within a few miles of you. Plus, the easier grades, it can make it to where you basically are getting paid to do nothing. And if you can manage the classrooms properly, the kids will love you, they'll request you directly, you'll stay busy all the time. So if you or someone you know is in need of extra cash or a flexible gig, this video is something I think should be shared all around. We've got a substitute teacher shortage, and if more of us signed up to make a little bit of side money doing this, people who are doing Uber or delivering for Instacart, we see what's been happening with a lot of those apps, making it really hard to actually bring in some income. Well, guess what? That's not going to happen with substitute teaching. The salaries are only going up, and the availability also is going up. We need your help. So get out there and make your extra money. Go have a little bit of fun being a kid again, and make sure you decide to be the cool sub, because that's what makes it even easier on you. All right, I hope that you enjoyed this video and that maybe you'll decide to share it with somebody who you think probably needs to know this information. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye. Okay, maybe new videos out every Wednesday or Saturday. I don't know. I'm not really sure just yet. Hopefully, maybe, probably. But I'm gonna try to maybe entertain you guys a little bit later. Okay, love you. Bye. Okay, bye.